We are recording the interview of Harold Larson. This interview is being conducted by Katie Bradshaw from the Wright State University Veteran Voices Project. Also in attendance is B. Larson. This interview is being recorded at Holiday Inn in Dayton, Ohio. It is 8:38 p.m. on October 18th, 2019. Thank you for joining us today, Harold. Would you tell us about when and where you were born?
Okay, well, I was born in 1946 in Chicago, so I was one of the first baby boomers of that period. And I lived in Chicago for, about 28, 29 years until after I got married. And then we moved to Elmhurst, Illinois, and lived at several other places, also Oak Forest, Illinois, and presently in Plainfield, Illinois.
All right. Well, when you were born in Chicago, what were your parents' professions?
Okay, well, my mother worked at Atlas Collapsible Tube Company, which made all of your toothpaste tubes, glue tubes, and other kinds of products that would come in a tube, which were made out of lead at the time. And they used to punch these things out of a little thing that looked like a nickel, and then they'd make it into a Pepsodent toothpaste tube, coat it with some wax material. Then they would send it off to the Pepsodent people, and they'd fill it up with toothpaste, and then put them out on the market. So she made these tubes of various products. And my father worked at International Harvester for a little over 42 some years, and he made tractors, bulldozers as you want to call them. And during the wartime, he also worked at a place where they made the canopies for airplanes that covered the machine guns and things like that.
Very good.
Yeah.
Are there siblings?
And my sister, she's 6 years older than I am, and she's of course been retired for several years. And she went to the same high school that I did, or I went to the same high school that she did. And it was a business type high school where we got our degrees from there, and then we went off into the business world as far as working as, she worked at Helene Curtis and a couple other companies related like that, those product lines, as a secretary, account manager type person.
Okay. So it was just the two of you?
Yes.
Okay. And 6 years apart, so that's a little bit of an age difference. Mm-hmm. So was she a good babysitter?
Yeah, she took care of me quite well.
That's good.
Because I had a problem with going to kindergarten or first grade, and I'd get halfway to school, and my sister would want to get me inside the door, and I would refuse, and I'd run back home because I didn't want to go to school. But it took a little while, and then after that, then I got used to going to school. I had better teachers, shall I say, that treated you better, and things were much better after that. And I went to school.
Good.
Yeah.
So was this was not in the suburbs then? This was in Chicago itself?
Yes.
So that would have been some cold winters.
Oh, yeah.
What kind of things did you guys do for fun?
Oh, golly. Well, during the summertime, we lived near Humboldt Park, which is on the northwest side of Chicago. And, of course, Humboldt Park is a recreational type area. And, of course, during the wintertime, you had snow, and they had hills where you could go on your sleds, go sledding. And the little ponds would freeze over, so you could go ice skating. And then they had a recreational boathouse, as they call it, where you could rent boats to go out rowing, or you could go inside and you could play basketball, shoot pool, and different things like that. And you can also do fishing if you like fishing in there.
Good. What was your favorite hobby as a child?
Well, golly, riding my bike, I guess.
Right. It. Yeah.
And I got involved with numbers for some reason, because my mother says I used to go around on my bicycle, my tricycle, or my wagon, whatever, and I used to go up and down the street, and I'd write down every car's license plate number. And she said, "What are you going to do with all of these numbers? Why are you writing down all these numbers?" Well, then later on, after I got out of high school, I was working at a import and export freight forwarding company where you dealt with numbers all day long. for either the weights of a product, the cost of a product. You do a quotation. You figure out how much it would cost to get from this country to that country, and so on. So that's how all of these numbers kind of fell into place.
It was your thing.
Yeah, numbers. And I was fairly good at it.
Well, should anything have happened in your neighborhood, the police would have been happy that you wrote down license plate numbers.
Oh, yes. Not too much happened in our neighborhood, you know. Not in the 50s, you know. It was like
That's
quiet.
Good. Yeah. So then in high school, you went to was it like a trade school?
Well, yeah. First I went to a regular public school for 2 years. And then I went to this other school downtown Chicago, which means I had to take a bus and an L train. And it was a business-oriented type school, and very popular in Chicago at the time. They used to do a lot of write-ups in the newspaper and things like that. I met a lot of people there, like Richard J. Daley, the mayor of Chicago at that time, who had been like the mayor for 1,010 years. I met him a couple of times there. And then sometimes movie stars and recording stars would come and visit school, and so I had to meet them there at the same time.
That sounds like a really good opportunity.
Yes. Yeah.
Very good. So at what point along the way did you decide to join the military?
Well, I was going to college at DePaul University evenings and working during the day. And in October of 1965, I received my draft notice. And they say, "Oh, we want you." So I said, "Well, I'm going to school. I've already got money invested in this. How about after this semester is done, so I get my credits?" "Oh, okay, thank you." And then I got a letter in January saying, "Okay, please report on February 16th so you can come into the Army with us and have fun and games." So I said, "Okay." Because I didn't want to stay out of the Army. The university says, you know, if you want, you can avoid going into the Army if you sign up a bunch of classes right now. And I says, "No, thanks, that's okay. I want to change of pace, you know."
Okay, so that's good. So
Yeah.
you decided to take the patriotic route
Right.
and move
And
forward.
not go to Canada or what some of these other crazy people did, you know.
Different paths for different
Yes.
folks.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So, how did your family feel about your draft notice?
Well, of course, my mother was all excited about it as to, "Oh, you're going to go in the Army, you know." I says, "It'd be fine, you know, it'd be fun, you know, it'd be a different thing, you know, get healthy, wealthy, and wise, so to speak, learning things about what's going on here and there." And it was a fairly good training, you know. And my father, he just says, "Make the best of it, you know, do the best that you can."
I imagine they were concerned, but trying to be strong.
Oh
for
yeah,
you.
well, Vietnam was going on, you know,
Yeah.
starting up pretty good after that.
Yeah,
A couple of good years there was a lot of fierce things going on.
yeah.
So they were worried about that. But it didn't bother too much. I went to basic training in Fort Polk, Louisiana, which was in February of '66. And at that point in time, they had a thing going on called spinal meningitis. So in order to avoid catching that, we weren't allowed to do a lot of exercise things, like marching here and there, or physical exercises other than PT, what we call, you know, you do some jumping jacks, some push-ups or whatever. But we weren't allowed to do any other extracurricular things, so they would truck us to every place. Truck us out to the, fields, and truck us out to the rifle range, truck us out to the bivouac area, rather than you having to march, 5 miles or something, because that was too much exercise. So I kind of fell into that.
I imagine the drill instructors made you guys very aware of how easy you had it.
Oh yes. Sometimes the guys would want to do something extra curricular, like go on the monkey bars kind of thing. The drill sergeant will holler, "Get off of there! You're not supposed to do that." "Oh, okay."
That's interesting.
Yes.
I've never heard a version of that.
So we had it very cush, shall I say.
So how long was that?
8 weeks. 8 weeks of that. And then after that, went home on leave. And then I came back to Fort Polk to do my AIT training, advanced training. Because when the basic training is over with, the drill sergeant, he announces to each soldier what your MOS is. And it seemed like everybody was 11 beat 10, 11 beat 10, 11 beat 10 for everybody. Then they come to me, 72 beat 10. You know, what the heck is that? You know, personnel specialist, a typist, a clerk. Come on, you got to go out there with a rifle and stuff. You don't need, typewriter. But that's what it was.
And that was just pure luck?
Well, that's from going to that Jones school. My last 2 years, I learned how to type. I did office machines and business kind of things. So they says, oh, you can type 65 words a minute? You can sit behind a typewriter rather than sit in a foxhole.
That sure worked out for you.
Yes.
Very good. So how long was your AIT training?
That was also 8 weeks.
And then when did you find out where your assignment would be?
Right after that 8 weeks, they says, okay, well, you're going to be assigned now to Fort Polk, Louisiana, same place where I've been. So I just went to the same battalion, brigade, the 5th Training Brigade headquarters. And then I was what they called a morning reports clerk, where I was in charge of 5 companies, and they would each tell me how many people are off on sick, AWOL, on leave, whatever, and I would make up the morning reports, keeping track of how many people are gone, coming in, either new troops or old troops going out, they graduated. And so I do that, and another cush job, okay? Basically, I worked 1 hour a day. I'd show up there in the morning at 8 a.m. I'd be done by 9 o'clock, and the rest of the day was mine.
They didn't give you extra tasks?
No.
Wow.
So I'd go to town, go to the show, do my laundry, go to bed, whatever I wanted to do.
So how long were you doing that position for then?
About 10 months. It was
Wow.
really, really tough.
Lucky you.
Yeah. So after that, it got to be like December of '66. And I got word that, oh, they're doing something with you. It looks like you're going to be shipped out. And you're going to go to Korea. And that's when the FBI came around the neighborhoods. They went to my place of work, my high school, my grammar school, my neighbors, finding out about my background. And so they says, okay, you're doing pretty good. You haven't killed anyone. And you're not involved with any underground scrupulous things going on. So that's how I got my clearance. And then they sent me over to Korea. Meanwhile, this one buddy of mine that I've been through with basic training with, AIT training, and we were both stationed at Fort Polk. He says, oh, gee, you're going to go overseas, He says, what are you going to do with that fan that you had in your room? Because we each had individual rooms. We didn't have barracks. We had our own individual rooms, which was another cush thing. And I said, well, I'll sell it to you for a couple bucks, because it was hot in Louisiana. So I sold him the fan for a couple dollars. And about a week or two later, he gets his orders. He's going to Korea too. So we both went and left at the same time then. I didn't give him his dollars back though for the van.
Did he resell it?
I probably did, yes. He didn't take it with him.
So did you guys actually fly to Korea together then?
Yes.
Now, when you contacted your family that you're going to be going to Korea, how did your parents respond to that?
Well, again, they were concerned as to that, as to, well, what's going on over there, because North and South Korea, things were fighting on from the 1950s. I said, well, that's all over with. I says, shouldn't be anything too much going on, So he said, okay, make sure you got to write me every week, what's going on.
Did you?
Yes.
You're a good son.
Because otherwise I'd get beat up by my mother. It's like when I was at Fort Polk, I had to call her every week. Otherwise, you're going to get it.
Did you receive a lot of letters?
Yes, I did. Because I had several young ladies that would write to me, along with my family. So that was pretty nice. Always get the mail in. And so when I got over to Korea, actually before that, I should, regress here. When I got to Fort Lewis, Washington, they said, well, okay, you only have 10 months left in the Army. A tour in Korea is 18 months. You don't have enough time. So, but we can send you to Nam for 6 months at least. So I said, I don't want to go there. And the two other guys with me were both in the same boat. So I says, I ain't going to see a lawyer about this. So I went to the Adjutant General's office, talked to a lawyer, and he says, well, tell you what, you sign this intent to reenlist. When you get to Korea, then you tell them, no, I don't want to reenlist. And that's it. You're free. You don't have to go to Nam. So I got these other two guys and myself, and we didn't go to Nam.
That was a creative solution.
Yes. So it was a little initiative there to say, no, I don't feel like ducking bullets and things like that.
So at this point, you were in for a 2-year commitment.
Yes.
Okay. So how did you get to Korea?
Well, we flew from Chicago to Seattle, Washington. We was there for only a couple of days. And then we flew from there to Anchorage, Alaska. And a funny thing there is when we got to Anchorage, they said, oh, okay, you guys can go and go have lunch at this restaurant right there by the airport. So we're there for a long time having lunch. And then we're looking out at our plane on the runway, and there's parts laying on the runway on a tarmac. They took one of the flaps off. And they said, oh, we're going to be delayed. You're going to spend the night here. They have some problems with your airplane. I said, oh, good. I see them putting the duct tape on it, now to fix that up. So we stayed overnight in Anchorage. They took us on a bus, tour of the mountains. And, oh, here's this valley. Here's these things, and snow and water. Well, that's pretty nice. Went into town. And then they put us up in the hotel. Then they flew us over to Tokyo, Japan. Made it there. The plane held up. And so it was kind of late. So they put us up in a hotel there. Had dinner, whatever. That was nice because I see a little bit of Tokyo. Then the next day they flew us over to Korea. And they drove us out to 508th Group, which is in a town called Yangdangpo. And got barracks and whatever. They issued you bedding. So as I got my sheets and pillows and stuff, and I go marching off to these Quonset huts. And there's some guys over there, and they're kind of laughing and stuff. Hey, how many days you got left? I says, 310. What? Because they still had like 2-3 years left. I said, 310. Oh, goddamn drafties. So he said, how did you get in here? So everybody's kind of PO'd at me about that, Because anybody that was in the ASA, Army Security Agency, you had to sign up. You joined for 4 years.
You got really
lucky. Only way
lucky.
you got in there. So my first week in Korea was just sitting around these barracks until I got assigned to a company. So they says, well, we just can't have you guys sitting around. That'd be stupid. We better put you to work. So they had a chain link fence going around the compound. Me and several others painted it. That was a lot of fun painting a silver fence,
What did you use to paint a chain link fence?
Paintbrush. So, one guy paint one side, somebody else paint the other side. You get a little silver paint on you sometimes. It was a lot of fun.
That sounds more like busy work than something that probably
they had nothing else for us to do. And I don't like potatoes, especially peeling them. And they had all of the South Korean people working in the mess halls, so they peeled the potatoes. I didn't have to do that. But they had nobody to paint the fence.
So at this point, you're how old?
21.
So 21, and you've just gone through Alaska and Japan to end up in Korea. What kind of thoughts are you having?
I said, this is pretty nice. Seeing the world. Been here, been there. I've never been to Alaska, never been to Seattle. I wasn't even to Louisiana, or I even went into Texas too. So I said, wow, you're seeing a lot of things here, and I don't have to pay for any of it. Free clothes, free meals, free room and board. What else could you? That's why probably a lot of guys stayed in for like 20 years. But I said, two-year paid vacation is enough for me.
So once you're in Korea and you're done painting the fence, what did they put you to work doing?
Okay, well, nothing really. First they says, well, okay, we're going to send you out to Company A, which is on the mainland, right on the DMZ. I said, okay, Company A. And then like a day later, they changed that, and they says, no, you have to go up to 226 on this island. And then different guys were saying, oh, that's the worst place you could go. It's like, being thrown into a furnace or something. I said, what? How bad could that be, So once I got there to 226, you had to drive down this dirt road for like 40 miles. Then you get on this ferry boat to take you across the Han River onto this island and drive along into this valley of mountains around like 3 sides, and you're facing North Korea is like a mile away. You could see North Korea every morning when you got up. So I said, well, this is really terrible, right there with those guys. Well, after I was there for a while, I got assigned as being the company clerk with the one guy that was only going to be there for about another 3 or 4 months, and then he was shipping out. So they needed a company clerk to replace me. So he showed me all the ropes, about going in to pick up the mail in Seoul, how to run the movie projector at the movie theater, how to drive up the mountain and drive down the mountain with your, material, your secret material, and just things to do in the office, So I said, well, that's pretty nice, So I met the first sergeant, I met the CO, and there was just us 3 in the office, not too bad. And so I learned the ropes on out of everything there. When I'd pick up the mail and bring it back from the group headquarters, well, then I'd sort it out, and then the guys would all be waiting for me outside the mailroom. And I open up my little door, and they come up and get their mail. And by that time, I'm knowing everybody's name in the whole place, but only their last names. Nobody ever had a first name. It's last names, because that's the way the Army is. So I'd hand out all their mail, and so it went along. Then we had different holidays and things going on, and we had a nice big 4th of July gathering, shall we say, where we invited different companies in and groups of people and whatever from our group headquarters and other different companies. And they had a greased pig contest. You catch the greased pig. They had a pie eating contest and different other games and stuff like that, along with a few refreshments, 1 or 2 refreshments, and food, things like that. So a good time was had there. And let's see what else. Our first sergeant, he organized a volleyball team. So we had volleyball games between different groups of guys. We had our own swimming pool there. That was a mountain-fed stream that would come down and fill up this reservoir, which we said years ago, they said to the headquarters, we need water here. So we got to build this reservoir. And they built this big pool. Actually, it was a swimming pool. The water was a little cold, but you got used to it. Okay? So that was nice. You guys, we had lawn chairs and sit out there and sun yourself or whatever in your off hours.
Was there any concern of snakes or?
I never seen any snakes. But
Okay.
different guys says, oh, you got to stay away from the snakes. I said, well, I don't go out in the weeds and the bushes and stuff like that, I stayed in like the NCO club where there's no snakes in there. Just beer, whatever, music. So that was pretty nice. But they had a lot of games and things that you can do, pool, ping pong, stuff like that. And then, of course, being the company clerk comes with certain privileges. I got the first sergeant's Jeep or the CO's Jeep anytime I wanted. So I used to make a lot of trips into Seoul on weekends. Since I was a company clerk, you didn't really work all day Saturday. I worked for a couple hours. And then you'd be off and you could drive anywhere you want. So I'd drive people into Seoul and we'd spend the night there. Then I'd come back Sunday afternoon.
So everyone wanted to be your friend.
Yeah. So instead of having a Jeep sometimes, I'd have to take a 3/4 ton out of the motor pool because I had 12 guys going. Because I didn't want to take no 2.5 out because it's too big of a clunky vehicle,
So when you went into Seoul, you actually had to take the ferry, correct? And where would you guys stay when you were in Seoul?
At group headquarters. At the 508th group in Yeongdampo.
Like barracks?
Yeah.
So
And-
they were just available. You guys could come sleep in them whenever you wanted.
The way it was down there at Yeongdampo, they also did the transmitting of secret materials and collecting of information. And so they'd have different shifts. So when somebody was working, their bed would be empty and you can utilize their facilities. So you make sure that you didn't overlap. So they came in and say, hey, who's in my bed? You know, it's like Goldilocks and the Three Bears.
It was very communal that people were willing to share their
Oh, yeah.
beds. That's good.
Yeah. So it was kind of neat.
Well, what was your favorite thing to do in Seoul?
Oh, golly. Well, there was a few things that you could go to the show, or my friend Dave that followed me along from basic training through all of these things, he talked me into going to church with him. So we went, drive off to this church, and everybody was in there. There was officers, and you weren't allowed to like call them sir or salute them or nothing. He said, my name's Bill, my name's Fred. So that was neat. You know, he didn't convert me though. I was still the same old guy. But it was a different kind of a church, you know, it was a Church of Christ. And they're very friendly people, you know. I know he used to drag me off when we were in Louisiana to church there. And you go to church and these people will invite you, come on home tonight, you know, we'll have dinner at my house. I didn't know these people at all.
Free food.
But, yeah. So that was kind of like the way it was in Korea too.
Okay.
So I had a lot of adventures there. Went to a retreat up in the mountains. You take off for 3 days, you know, get a 3-day pass, and you just go up there and you relax and go along with the crowd with the other people that were there, you know, as far as having some talking together and things like that. And you just take it easy for 3 days.
Did you go hiking?
No, not exactly. Not so much hiking. You did enough hiking because where we were stationed at in this mountain village, I might say, everything was either uphill or downhill. So I'm going up the stairs to the orderly room to go to work, going down the stairs to the mess hall to eat, going down the stairs to the barracks, going up the stairs to the NCO club, you know, going down the stairs to the motor pool. So you had a lot of hiking just there on the compound.
Did they have you do PT while you were there?
No.
Okay. The steps everywhere was enough.
Yes, that was enough, yeah. It was,
Okay.
like I said, it was a little bit laid back. We didn't have to do things like what they did down at the group headquarters. We got to do what we wanted to do.
How was the food?
Food was great. You know, like they always say, oh yeah, this place or whatever, that place, they had powdered eggs and powdered potatoes and, you know, powdered milk. I never seen a powdered egg. We had real eggs, you know, and real food, you know, stuff that you could really eat, you know, milk and whatever. Because the people that were in charge of this stuff, they knew who to contact, and they'd send in these trucks. It's like a refrigerated kind of truck, but it was insulated. And they'd go into the Seoul and they'd pick up all of our supplies, and they have all kinds of good stuff, you know. And a lot of the guys, like for different holidays or special occasions and that, they had hunting on our island for pheasants. And we even had a supply of shotguns out of our armory. And not only the guys in the compound there, but officers would come from different places. They'd either drive in or fly in on their helicopters. Decide, okay, I'm going to come out there tomorrow and that, and we'll go do some hunting, you know, for pheasants. Okay, fine. So it was a very popular place.
How was the reception in the community towards American GIs?
Well, it depends on what you mean by the community. There was a nice village down there with a population of quite a few young ladies that would like to come up to the compound and go to the show with you and go to the NCO club and, you know, kind of hang around with you. But everybody down there, they basically worked at our compound too. So most of your farmers and that did rice paddies and that kind of work and that, their average income per year was about $300. Okay, so some of these people that worked on our compound, they were, excuse me, they were making quite a bit more money than that per year. And so they thought that was pretty rich, that they could work for the Americans and make all of this money. And they get paid in won, which was the Korean currency. And some of them would receive a shopping bag full of won. So you're used to getting either a check or you get, a few pieces of paper, which is your currency. But because their currency was so devaluated, there was 400 won per US dollar. So you'd have to get 400 won to make $1. So if these people were getting paid $100 a week, they were getting a shopping bag full of...
Wow. They were paid in cash.
In won, yes. In Korean money. Because the highest currency amount, I think, was a $500 or 500 won, which was close to being like $1.
Wow.
$1.10 or something like that.
And I suppose maybe checking accounts weren't like how
No,
we have,
it's-
banks and checking accounts.
No.
So so they were paid in cash. That is interesting.
So,
You would think, was it safe for them to carry this bag of paycheck home?
well, yeah, they kind of, make sure that they would watch what their
Okay.
people are there. But, and then of course we also had houseboys. I never had to make my bed, never had to polish my shoes, never had to set up my equipment for inspections, never did my laundry, never did my sewing. And we used to give the houseboys, like mine, I used to give them like $10 a month and a carton of cigarettes.
What army were you in?
It was ours. It was our army, really.
Was that the whole, everyone who was at that base had these accommodations?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Everyone. And on our base, there was about 112 people, which was very small for a company. Like in our group headquarters in Seoul area, I think there was about 400. And
Wow.
like at their NCO club, you go in there for a refreshment. Well, they had 2 different kinds of beer. That was it. At our compound, with only 100 and some guys, I would say there was about 12 different kinds of beer, plus any kind of liquor you wanted, plus some of our appetizers were frog legs, which, I didn't notice was a French restaurant. No, it's an NCO club, not a French restaurant. So they'd have frog legs, along with other things, sandwiches and hamburgers and so on.
It sounds like at some point there must have been a base commander that really put time into
Yeah.
boosting morale.
It was like a Club Med in the Far East.
Wow, what an experience. So
It was
why,
really tragic
why did
for
you
me.
only do 2 years?
I said, that's enough paid vacation for me. I got to go out and make some more money, because you didn't get paid that much at this time, even though I made E5 specialist, which was equivalent to being a sergeant. You didn't make that much money, not like you do now. Now, geez, I'd sign up right now if I could. But
Were you at that point feeling homesick at all?
no. It's when I got down to like a week left or something like that. So you're what we used to call short, because you only have so many days left in the Army. I say, I'd really like to stay here for another 6 months. But she said, no, you got to leave. But there were so many things going on during the fall of 67 rather. A lot of conflicts of things going on with North and South Korea. And so North Korea decided, let's invade South Korea, about 30 guys, and we're going to go in and kill the president of South Korea. Okay, So I was on my courier run to drive into the group headquarters, drop off the sensitive materials. But this day I had a Jeep in front of me with a warrant officer and an MP. And let's see, then there was me and a courier with me. And then there was a Jeep behind with 2 MPs in there. And they had rifles. Okay. And we're driving through dirt roads, and we get to this Kimpo City, which is a paved area road. And there's all of these ROK Marines, which is the Republic of Korea, Marines running all over the place. things are exploding over here, and bullets are flying or whatever, and so they're waving us through, you know. So we get through that and get down to group headquarters, pull in the defensive. I said, how the heck did you get here? You know, they had all of these guys that they were killing right there that were invading South Korea. And in Reader's Digest, they came out with a story a couple years later about these 32 guys or so, and they only saved one guy who gave up, you know. He says, don't shoot me. And then he told his story what they had to do. So it drove through all of that.
Wow.
Which was kind of neat, you know, exciting.
As a 21-year-old, it felt exciting.
Oh, yeah. It's kind of like being on the streets of Chicago today, well, only you're in a foreign country.
Did you write home and tell your parents about it?
Oh, it was in the news, you know. About all this. They said, did you know anything about it? I says, I drove right through it. What are you talking about?
Probably better they didn't know at the time.
Yeah. But then when I was getting short, as they say, getting down to like, maybe about a month left in Korea. Well, North Korea decides to capture the Pueblo, which was the spy ship that was, we had 6 of them actually, but it was a spy ship that got a little too close to North Korea on the East Coast. And so the North Koreans went and captured that, and they held the crew hostage for over a year. And my CO, he says, now this is after I turned in my M14 already. So my CO says, well, Larson, it looks like you're going to have to guard your typewriter with your life, you know, and then watch for those North Koreans and the Chinese to come over those hills. So thanks a lot, you know. That's what I really needed to hear, you know, having only, you know, a couple weeks left in the Army. So that was exciting too.
You got to see a little bit of action.
Little action.
Without being too close to danger, I suppose.
Yeah, not too close, about a mile.
Yeah. Wow. So, can you think of someone who had a really big impact on you while you were in Korea? A supervisor or a friend?
Well, I would say my first sergeant. He was a nice guy. Because, well, some days didn't have too much typing and stuff to do, so we'd sit and talk about things, you know. So he would tell me about his experience. Like, he started off when he was like 17. He joined the Navy. He was in the Navy for a couple of years. Then he says, well, I didn't like ships and water too much. So he went and he joined the Army. And he put in, I think, 25 years. And he ended up being a sergeant major, you know, when he retired in the late 70s. So I had talked to him about 2 odd years ago, you know, on the phone. He lived out east someplace, you know, in Pennsylvania or something like that. And so we used to talk stuff, you know, in the office, in the orderly room. And he used to tell me, you know, why he was in the Army and stuff like that. He says, well, I don't know what else to do. He says, I joined the service when I was 17. And he says, I didn't feel like digging ditches for the rest of my life. So that's why he joined the Army, was having a home in the Army. So he was married, he had kids and stuff. But then you get these little journeys, you know, where you get carted off to some foreign country for a year or a year and a half or something like that.
Yeah, it's very easy to get used to the military lifestyle. So the thought of adjusting outside is a little intimidating.
But then you leave your family at home, you know. And so you see them, you know, once every year and a half or something like that. But you write letters back and forth or something like that. You know.
During your time in Korea, I imagine you didn't go home to visit your family.
No, because that's too much of a, you know, expense, and that the Army wouldn't pay for that, you know, unless you had an emergency, you know, that you had to go home for. So it was just too much. Even though you got 30 days vacation every year, which a lot of companies that you might work for, you don't get vacations like that anyway. You know, you'd start off at a company, you get 2 weeks vacation after you've been there for a year. I got 30 days the first year I was in. So that was nice, you know. So when I was in Louisiana, of course, I used to be able to get to go home maybe 3 or 4 times You know.
What would you do to celebrate your birthday while you were in the Army?
Oh, God, not really too much that I recall. I had one birthday in the Army when I first got in, because my birthday's in March. And then the next time that when I turned 21, I was at home waiting to go to Korea. So I was home because I didn't go to Korea until the very last week of March sometime. I think March 28th or something. So I was home for that. So I had a party, and I remember I went out to the local tavern and I bought a case of beer because I'm 21 today. Oh, really? Okay. So that was a big, plus for your life.
Yeah, exciting day.
Now it doesn't matter about you being 21 whether you buy beer or not.
In Korea, it sounds like alcohol was legal.
Mm-hmm.
Was there an age limit in Korea?
None that I know of. No. Because the drinks were cheap, of course, because we didn't have money. So it cost you 20 cents for a mixed drink of some sort. And I think it was 10 or 15 cents for a beer. That's pretty cheap.
Very cheap.
And you used to buy these, what they call a chit book. It had little coupons that you would tear out, and each one was worth 5 cents. And so you'd buy $5 worth, and you get that first free. And then at the end of the month, when you got paid, the first thing you do is you'd pay off all of the chit books that you bought. So some guys, they take their paycheck and just throw it on the bar, and say, here's for all my chit books,
Well, that's not good.
No, that's not good. Not a good way to save any money or anything.
Yeah.
But me, I used to buy bonds. I used to buy a bond out of my paycheck every month, So then when I got out of the Army, I had a couple of $100. Wasn't too bad.
Did you cash them in then when you got out?
I had them for a couple of years. Then I cashed them in, when I needed to buy something special.
So when you decide, well, let's finish up with Korea first. Did you have any moments in Korea where you were genuinely very frightened, or that was very nerve-wracking?
Not really. Different things that would happen that I would see sometimes were kind of scary. I remember seeing a deuce and a half truck overturned in a rice paddy. There was a lot of blood in the rice paddy. So I said, something terrible happened here. Somebody made a big mistake, I did meet a lot of North Korean spies.
How?
They were talking to me like I'm talking to you. They would just show up and they'd have like a Rock Marine uniform on. There might be only like 2 or 3 of them. One's an officer and then some enlisted guys. And they would talk to you and they'd ask you about, they look at your truck and they'd see ASA on it. And you said, well, what is that for? What do you do? I said, well, we're in the Army Supply Attachment. I said, we make, we hand out the mattresses and bedding materials and things like that. They don't want to tell them we're in security, But different ones that you'd run into.
So you would know that they were a spy, but they would think they were tricking you.
Yes.
Ah. Wow.
And sometimes we'd have these 3-piece suited guys come in, the American guys, they come in to the compound in a cab. From the mainland, they'd come over. And they were from the CID, which is like the CIA, only the Central Intelligence Department or something like that. And they have their little 38s. And then they flash these 8x10 glossy photos of like some women. And they say, were these young ladies in your NCO club last night? Yep. Yeah, she was there. Do you know who they went home with? Because they were afraid that somebody would talk. That's like anytime one of our guys would go to a hospital where they might be getting a tooth pulled and they'd be put under or whatever. Someone else would have to go with them and be in the room to make sure that they didn't open up their mouth about anything other than getting their tooth pulled or something. Because loose lips sinks ships,
Did anyone get arrested while you were there for disclosing information?
No. Everybody kind of knew was, they didn't didn't divulge anything, you know, even no matter how much liquor they had, you know, or sometimes they probably could have been drugged, maybe some of them, but it didn't happen to anybody I knew of.
That's good.
But there's a lot of precautions that were taken, you know.
I'm actually surprised that they would allow the young women to even come on the compound knowing that was the goal.
They didn't know that they were, you know, spies. Because down in the village, they had a doctor, and he would check all of the girls every month for VD or whatever, and get a card. So even these girls that came to visit would have this VD card, so that they can get on the compound. If you didn't have this card signed by a doctor, you couldn't get on the compound.
It's so weird.
So it's like, you know, it was just to make sure that the guys were safe and that these girls were who they were. They were clean and they okay, you know.
Did any of the young men while you were there end up marrying any of these women?
Oh, yes. One of my buddies here that I see now and again, he was the MP sergeant, and he courted and dated the seamstress from our compound. Took her home and married her, and he has 3 boys, and they're huge guys. They're football player-looking guys, you know. And so I've known him for about 50 plus years, and several other guys that are here tonight also married to locals.
Okay.
The Army discouraged that because as soon as you married one of these women, because there's a lot of people, they made it very, very difficult to take them home and marry them because it was to discourage them. As soon as you married them, you lost your security clearance.
Oh.
So then you got assigned to do something else. You know, like, okay, 1 minute you're working up on the top side with the radars and the sonars and, you know, infrared and all that stuff. And next thing you know, you're working in the motor pool.
And the Army's short the
Yeah.
manpower they needed.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was one of the prices you paid, you know. But usually the guys after that, then they get out of the Army anyway. They say, well, I've had enough.
What would you say is your most fond memory of Korea?
Just being over there with the scenery and the atmosphere and that, and the day-to-day things that I did, because it was kind of exciting to me, you know, because it wasn't like Fort Polk, Louisiana. It was just hot every day, you know. Even on the cold days, it was hot, and it was different because of the foreign people that were there, all the South Koreans, and I found them to be very friendly. I know when I used to go on my courier runs, I used to have bags of candy that I bought at the PX, you know, individually wrapped candy. And I'd see some father or grandfather walking with kids. So I'd, throw a handful of candy out. Usually they run after that and grab that. So they liked me.
That's a fun memory.
Yeah.
Aw.
So that was nice.
So when the time came for you to leave, did you have a going away party or?
Yes. What they did when you were going to be leaving is you would have the NCO club, they put up a sign, and you would buy drinks for everybody that came in. And it sort of cost you maybe, oh, golly, $20, you know, because everybody could drink. And the bartender guy, he was a real nice guy that took care of his Korean guy. And he made sure that each group, because we had 3 shifts, so you're talking like 100 people or something like that, and you'd end up being paid like $30, $25, something like that. So that wasn't too bad.
So you'd save up for your going away.
Yeah.
So when you left, was it kind of emotional?
Yeah. I had 2 guys drive me into Kimpo City where I caught the airplane. 2 MPs, as a matter of fact, 2 of my MP friends. And so he drove me in there and dropped me off and sent me on my merry way.
What were you thinking about on your flight home?
Well, when we got to Japan, to stop off there, and then at Japan, at this point in time during these months or years, whatever, a lot of planes would fall into the Tokyo harbor, you know, the Bay of Tokyo. for whatever they crash, you know, they go off the, because the runway was right there. And due to pilot error or something, they go into the drink. I was concerned about that until we took off and we got over some land. But I'm sitting kind of close, kitty corner to the exit door on the plane, and it's whistling. I says, I don't think it's supposed to be whistling. So we call the steward. So this is a commercial airline, Northwest Orient. And I says, the door over there is whistling. She gets a blanket, shoves it in the doorway. I said, I don't know if that's going to work. If that opens up, I'm going to get sucked right out, you know.
You don't rely on a blanket to save your life.
Well, took the whistling away. So thank you. Give me another drink, please.
Or a couple more.
No kidding. Very exciting.
So then when you left Japan, you went where?
Went to Fort Lewis, Washington. And I was there only for 1 day. Got processed out. They tossed me on a plane. Went home.
How was your homecoming?
Very good. My family was there. Picked me up at the airport. But it's not like some of the other crowds of people. Let's see. When they came home, after Vietnam, nobody paid any attention to you. It wasn't, hi, how you doing? Thanks for your service, things like that.
Did you experience that as well?
Nobody said anything.
How long did it take before you would hear thanks for your service?
Good question. About 20 years.
That's tough. So when you came back and you got back to Chicago,
yeah.
And so what did you do from there?
I sat around for a week, and then I went back to my old place where I worked at, and they says, oh yeah, you can come back to work there. Well, I went to another place, and just looking around to see what's out there, and this other place says that they would hire me too. So I had 2 jobs to go to that following Monday. I said, well, I'll stick with the same company I was working with before. And I told the other company, I'm sorry, thanks for the opportunity for the job, but I'm going to stick with the import-export business that I was in. And from that particular point, and I did like another 48 years of that.
Wow, and what company was that?
I started off with this company called D.C. Andrews, who got bought out by Emory Air Freight later on. And then I went and I worked for a company called PIE Transport. And then they had to close up shop because they had a conflict of interest with some other holdings. Then I went to a company called D.C. Andrews again. And they took me back. Oh, yeah, you want to come back? Took me back in. I worked there for like another year. Then I went to a company called C.S. Green. And then worked there for, I think, 18 years. Then they were bought out by C.H. Robinson Company, which was the one that I retired from after 41.
And was this all in Chicago?
Yes. A couple of suburbs,
Okay.
Chicago, downtown Chicago, all that good stuff, So I used to take a bus and an L train to get down there sometimes. And then I moved out to the suburbs. So then I drive out to those places, yeah.
At what point did your bride enter your life?
Oh, golly. That was about 8 years after I got out of the Army. I think 68 to 73, I think. 73, yeah. And the terrible thing about this is my brother-in-law's brother, who I went to this Jones Commercial High School with, and hung around with, for the weekends, and used to do all kinds of cavorting around with him and a couple other guys, they were all kind of close knit together, going to parties, whatever. He introduced me to this girl. She says, he called me up one day and he says, I want you to come to my company Christmas party. I said, why do I want to go to your company Christmas party? He said, well, there's a girl I want you to meet. You'd like her. I said, I don't know about that. And so He just says that. Well, one of the attributes is she'll probably drink you under the table. I said, what do you mean drink me under the table? So we went to the party, and I met her there. I don't know, I think we had about 10 or 12 drinks while they were there at the party. Then we went to somebody's house afterwards. I think they had a couple more drinks there. Says, didn't drink me under no table.
She kept up with you though, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was the name of that tune. And what we used to do for dates is there was 3 clubs in Chicago, all within a couple of miles of each other. So we'd start off at this club, go there for a couple of drinks. They had dancing and bands, live music, at these places. Now we're talking into the early 1970s, okay? When you could do all of this. Now they got all these crazy venues that you have to go to, and you pay $50, $100 to get in. You didn't pay anything to get in. Sometimes they'd have a cover charge of $1, or $2. And then we go from one place to this place to that place, and then we go out bowling and do all the other kinds of activities and stuff like that. And that's how things happen.
Did you have children?
Yes, one. Had a daughter, and she's next month she's going to be turning 37.
The years go fast.
Yes, no kidding. She was just a little squirt at one time, and grew like a weed.
Grandchildren?
No, we have grandcats.
Ah, those are fun.
We have 3 grandcats. Yeah. So we even got cards from them, for like our birthday, Christmas, holidays. It's from my daughter Krista and your grandcats.
I love that.
So I says thank you.
Is she close to you? Like location-wise, do you guys live close to each other?
about 30 minutes away.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, she didn't want to be too close. She says, otherwise you want me over there every day. I don't want to be that close to you.
Close enough for
Yes.
anything to come up, and Sunday
calls
dinner and...
Like being out here. She say, now, when you leave the hotel, give me a call as to where you're going. And when you get back to the hotel, give me a call that you got back. Oh, okay. So it's like, we're on the phone all the time, talking to her.
She took on the parent role, huh?
Yes.
Where
yes.
you guys at?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
That's
Like,
good.
what was it? I think this morning we had breakfast, and then we had gone out to someplace to this Wilbur and Orville Wright's museum. And she says, you didn't call when you got there. We didn't know we were supposed to. Yes, you left the hotel. You didn't call when you got there. Kids.
What a blessing, though.
Mm.
That's great. What advice would you give to future generations?
Oh, golly. That's a good question. Well, of course, they don't have any draft anymore. It's all a volunteer army, which you got quite a variety of individuals in there. I don't know. People rely too much on the internet things, and some people, they can't make change for $1, and they just want too many things, too fast. You get all these apps on your phone, and you want a hamburger delivered to your house, you press this button, and some guy shows up at your door. It's not like the old days where we used to just get in the car or walk to some place and go and do something like that. We used to go out and drive out to the middle of nowhere, which was actually an hour away or a half hour away, and ride horses. Rent a horse for a half an hour, just plop along. Go out to different amusement park kind of things. They have these little traveling carnival kind of deals. Go out to that. Now they all go to the different rock things that are going on, the different venues. And of course, with the music that they have today, a lot of old people like me don't really care too much for it. I'm a Beatles person, Elvis person, 60s, 70s.
But what did your parents say about the Beatles at the time?
They actually liked them.
Oh, they did?
Mhm.
Okay.
My father would make various comments and stuff about different songs and whatever, And but they said that they had a lot of crazy music themselves, with the big band stuff and Frank Sinatra and so on and so forth.
Yeah, culture's always changing.
Yeah.
It's a lot to keep up with.
No kidding.
Yeah. Well, earlier we had talked about your homecoming and your experience, like most vets during that time period. Do you feel in the time since then you have found some closure? Now that people do thank you for your service?
Yeah, well, they've got a lot of things going on now. They have that honor flights. First it was World War II people, which my cousin went on one of those.
Good.
He was in World War II. I think he was in the Navy. And, I guess he was about 89 years old at the time, maybe 88. And they sent him over to Washington, for the day. It was a big surprise for him. Now they got Korean guys that they're sending over, and now they're just getting into Vietnam guys.
Have you had a chance to go yet?
No. No, I think my daughter's probably going to arrange something like that, But, so they have that, and they have this traveling wall. I don't know if you've seen that, but I've seen it like 3 times.
That's neat. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I've seen about it, but that's something I would like to see too.
They have it set up in different suburbs, and they'll make some announcements like I'm with the American Legion, and so they'll have flyers or in a newsletter that comes out monthly. They'll have announcements about that, or you see it on TV or something.
Are there any veteran organizations that you're actively involved in?
Not just the American Legion, but I really haven't gone to any of their meetings and stuff. They're right in my backyard practically, But it's like with all the other things that I do. I've got stuff to work on in my garden outside. Since I'm retired, I have nothing to do. Every day is a Saturday. And of course, my wife has a do list, do this, do that. So after I get those things done, now I got my hobbies.
And what are your hobbies?
Model trains. I'm working on that. And just to be a real off the deep end person, I went out and bought a guitar.
Very good.
So I could learn how to play the guitar. As a lot of the people that I hung around with in the early 70s before I got married was at a recording studio. And they all played guitars. They played the drums. Me, I was like percussion, or, tambourine kind of person, And after a few years, I could play the drums. At least I thought I could. And so I've been around these musicians for a long time. Some of them have worked with a larger recording person, people. Or they were in their band, or they were a very good guitar player. And I've got an album with the guy's picture on it and stuff like that. So that was kind of neat. So I said, well, okay, now I'm in my 70s. I better learn how to play a guitar.
That's great.
Okay. So I get in that plunk and I tune it up, and I'm learning the chords right now.
Have you formed calluses on your fingers yet?
Not yet. Yeah.
Not yet.
I've only had the guitar for a couple weeks, so that'll be a while. I'll get those going. But the guys that we meet once a month on the second Wednesday of every month, we have breakfast. And they say, well, how are you doing with your guitar? I said, I'm going out on tour after the first of the year. What? On tour? I said, no, not really.
You're going to have to find some open mic nights to go perform at.
Yeah. And I'll probably be throwing rotten potatoes at me or something.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's good.
I don't think I'm ready for that yet.
At open mic nights, it can be so laid back, though.
Yeah.
You got to do that at some
I did
point.
karaoke once. It was up in a bar up in Wisconsin someplace, And that's after you get wired a little bit, I can sing. No, you can't. Get off the stage. One of those kind of deals. That's terrible. Get someone else up on that stage.
That's fun.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything else that you would like to add that we didn't talk about?
Oh, golly. What else is there?
Any real important life lessons you learned along the way?
When I was involved with the import-export company, that was really exciting there because I got to deal with every country in the world you could think of. My name is probably written on bathroom walls or in subway walls all over the world because I've talked with people in China and Japan and Australia and New Zealand and Australia and Brazil. Matter of fact, right now on Facebook, I have 3 girlfriends in Brazil, and I have a girlfriend in Portugal and a guy in Portugal that I all dealt with at some point in time. So it's kind of neat.
Yeah. See, that's where technology is pretty neat, isn't it?
Yeah.
When it can connect.
We have birthday exchanges, go back and forth, or they'll print a picture about them with their kids or their parents or what. So you say, oh, that's nice, blah, blah, blah.
That is nice.
Yeah. So I'm kind of still in touch with the world, shall we say. But it was always exciting, shipping things here, there, and everywhere, and stuff would get there. It was always a fantastic thing that you put something on a ship in California, and the next thing you know, it's over in Korea or someplace. So it made it, Very interesting.
Yeah. And you got to use your numbers.
Yes. A lot of numbers.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I was excited.
Yeah. Well, that concludes our interview with Harold Larson. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for your military service.
Oh, thanks. You're welcome.